Commander Jace Harper stood at the observation deck of the International Space Station horizon, watching Earth's blue marble spin lazily below. After 15 years in space, the view still took his breath away. The gentle hum of the station's life support systems was interrupted by an urgent beeping from his wrist communicator. "Commander, unidentified object approaching at high velocity," Lieutenant Reese's voice crackled through the speaker. "It's not matching any known signatures." Jace's military training kicked in as he sprinted toward the command center. "Alert status. Get me visual." The main screen flickered to life, revealing a sleek vessel unlike anything human engineers had designed. Its iridescent hull seemed to ripple like liquid metal, defying conventional physics. "Sir, they're hailing us." Jace straightened his uniform. First contact. This was either humanity's greatest moment or its last. Open channel. The screen shifted, and Jace found himself staring at a being that looked almost like a cross between a butterfly and a humanoid. Translucent wings shimmered with bioluminescent patterns, while large, compound eyes reflected the station's lights like prismatic crystals. "Greetings, Earth vessel," the alien spoke in perfect English, though its mandibles moved in entirely different patterns. "I am diplomatic envoy Nirali of the Sylphid Collective. We come seeking alliance." Jace maintained his composure, though his heart raced. "Welcome, Envoy Nirali. I'm Commander Jace Harper of the International Space Station Horizon. We're honored by your visit." Nirali's wings fluttered in what might have been excitement. "Excellent. Our preliminary studies suggested humans would be ideal partners for genetic diversity enhancement during our upcoming mating season." Jace blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "Your species' remarkable adaptability and genetic variation would greatly benefit our collective. We've been monitoring your television broadcasts. The quantity of your mating-related entertainment suggests humans must have an extremely robust breeding cycle." Lieutenant Reese failed to suppress a snort of laughter, quickly disguising it as a cough. "There seems to be a misunderstanding," Jace said carefully. "Humans don't have a specific mating season. And our entertainment doesn't necessarily reflect our actual social practices." Nirali's antennae twitched in what appeared to be confusion. "No mating season? How do you coordinate reproduction? When do you know it's time to build chrysalis chambers?" "We don't build those either. Human reproduction is quite different." "Fascinating." Nirali's wings began pulsing with bright colors. "Our scientists must study this immediately. Permission to dock and establish diplomatic relations?" Jace glanced at his crew, seeing his own mix of excitement and apprehension reflected in their faces. "Permission granted, Envoy. Welcome to humanity's humble home." The docking process revealed another cultural misunderstanding. The Sylphid ship attached itself using a biological adhesive that would later take 3 days to dissolve. Nirali emerged from their ship with 2 other Sylphids, all 3 hovering in the station's artificial gravity. "These are my research associates, Xena and Trill," Nirali introduced them. "They specialize in xenobiology and cultural integration." Xena immediately pulled out a device that looked like a crystalline tablet. "Commander Harper, your pheromone levels suggest you're not currently in a reproductive state. Is this typical?" What?" Jace felt his face grow warm. "We don't communicate through pheromones." "No pheromones?" Trill's wings drooped. "How do you attract mates?" Lieutenant Reese, clearly enjoying the commander's discomfort, chimed in. "Usually through awkward conversations at coffee shops." The 3 Sylphids huddled together, their antennae touching in what appeared to be their version of whispered conversation. Their wings flickered with rapid color changes. "We must document everything," Nirali declared. "Human reproduction methods could revolutionize our understanding of species development. Would you be willing to participate in our research?" "That depends entirely on what this research entails," Jace replied diplomatically. Simple observation of your daily routines, hormone analysis, monitoring of your courtship behaviors. We noticed humans spend considerable time watching others engage in various activities through your social media. Is this part of mate selection? Jace pinched the bridge of his nose. Perhaps we should start with a cultural exchange. Learn about each other's societies first. Of course. Nirali's wings brightened. We can begin by sharing our metamorphosis recordings. They're quite spectacular. As the Sylphids eagerly set up their presentation, Jace couldn't help but smile. First contact had gone nothing like the training scenarios, but perhaps that was for the best. These beings, with their innocent curiosity and complete lack of military posturing, might just be exactly what humanity needed to take its next step into the cosmos. Little did he know, this was just the beginning of a series of cultural misunderstandings that would either forge an unbreakable alliance between their species or create the most awkward diplomatic incident in human history. The Sylphids' presentation on metamorphosis lasted 6 hours. Jace maintained his diplomatic smile even as his legs cramped from standing, while Lieutenant Reese had long since given up pretending not to be fascinated by the footage of Sylphids emerging from their crystal cocoons. And that concludes the larval stage documentation, Nirali announced proudly. Shall we move on to the pupal phase? Perhaps we should take a break, Jace suggested quickly. Humans need regular periods of rest and sustenance. This sparked immediate interest from the alien researchers. Zena's crystalline tablet appeared instantly. You mean you're entering a dormancy cycle? How fascinating. Do you also secrete a protective casing? He means we need to eat and sleep, Reese explained. Regular biological functions. Sleep. Trill's antennae quivered. Ah yes, the temporary death state we observed in your broadcasts. Most inefficient. Why not evolve beyond it? Jace led them to the station's mess hall, where the cultural misunderstandings only deepened. The Sylphids watched in horror as the humans began consuming their prepared meals. You process organic matter internally. Nirali's wings had turned a pale, sickly green. Without first liquefying it through external enzymes. How else would we eat? Reese asked around a mouthful of synthetic pasta. Barbaric, Trill whispered, though their tablet was recording every moment. Yet somehow elegant in its primitiveness. The situation grew more complicated when Dr. Patel, the station's chief scientist, arrived with the preliminary analysis of the Sylphids' translation technology. Her dark eyes were wide with concern as she pulled Jace aside. "Commander, we have a problem," she murmured. "Their universal translator isn't just converting language, it's attempting to translate cultural concepts into the nearest equivalent. But the baseline assumptions are all wrong." Meaning when they talk about mating seasons and genetic diversity, they might be trying to express something entirely different. We're getting the words, but losing the context. Before Jace could respond, a piercing alarm echoed through the station. Red emergency lights began flashing. "Hull breach in Section C." Lieutenant Wong's voice crackled over the intercom. "Some kind of biological reaction with the Sylphid ship's docking mechanism." The Sylphid's wings all shifted to a deep purple of concern. "Impossible," Nirali declared. "Our organic adhesive is completely inert to metallic substrates. Unless," Zena's antennae straightened in realization, "the universal translator miscategorized your station's bioengineered composite materials as compatible organic matter." They rushed to the affected section. The Sylphid ship's docking point had indeed begun to merge with the station's hull, the biological adhesive attempting to create what looked disturbingly like a chrysalis. "Can you stop it?" Jace demanded. "Of course," Nirali assured him. "We simply need to introduce the proper hormonal inhibitors." They paused. "Though given your species' unusual relationship with biological processes, perhaps we should explain what that entails." Dr. Patel stepped forward. "Commander, if I may. I believe I can interface our systems with their biological technology. It's not entirely different from some of our experimental biotech projects. The next few hours were a crash course in xenobiology for both species. As Dr. Patel and the sylphids worked to stabilize the hull, Jace observed how quickly they adapted to each other's methods. The sylphids' initial horror at human, primitive, biology gave way to genuine admiration for their problem-solving abilities. Remarkable, Trill commented, watching Dr. Patel recalibrate their crystalline tools with human equipment. You compensate for your biological limitations through technological innovation. It's quite elegant. Thanks. I think, Dr. Patel replied, not looking up from her work. Though I'm more interested in how your organic technology functions. The applications for human medicine could be revolutionary. Finally, the crisis was contained. The hull stabilized, though it now sported an iridescent patch that pulsed faintly in patterns similar to sylphid wing communications. Well, Jace said, surveying the damage, I suppose this gives new meaning to our species becoming closer. Nirali's wings flickered with what the humans were learning to recognize as amusement. Indeed. Though perhaps we should focus on updating our translation protocols before attempting any further technological exchanges. Agreed, Dr. Patel said. In fact, I have a theory about how we might improve cross-species communication. If we combine your biological interfaces with our digital systems, creating a true bridge between our different approaches. Xena finished excitedly. Yes, yes. We must begin immediately. As the scientists eagerly dove into their new project, Jace found himself smiling despite the day's chaos. These misunderstandings, while dangerous, were pushing both species to innovate in ways they never would have considered alone. Lieutenant Reese sidled up beside him. So, Commander, should we tell them about human teenagers? Since they're so interested in our biological development stages? Let's save something for the next cultural crisis, Jace replied dryly. I think we've had enough excitement for one day. Little did they know, the real excitement was just beginning. As Dr. Patel and the sylphids worked on their revolutionary communication system, none of them realized they were about to stumble upon something that would change both their species forever. Dr. Patel's laboratory aboard the Horizon had transformed over the past week. Crystalline growths sprouted from conventional computer terminals, while holographic displays pulsed with patterns that mimicked sylphid wing communications. The air hummed with a combination of electronic signals and biological resonance. Fascinating, Xena observed, their wings rippling with excitement as they studied a DNA sequence display. Your genetic code contains so much redundancy, yet it creates such adaptability. Speaking of adaptation, Dr. Patel said, adjusting her readings, the integration of your biological interfaces with our quantum processors is proceeding faster than expected. Almost too fast. Jace entered the lab, dodging a floating cluster of bioluminescent sensor nodes. Progress report. Commander, Nirali greeted him, their wings shifting to a formal blue pattern. We've made a breakthrough in understanding human neural patterns. Your brains are remarkably chaotic. We prefer to think of it as creative, Lieutenant Reese quipped from her security station. She hadn't left the lab since the sylphids started their experiments, claiming it was for safety protocols. Her fascination with their wing patterns suggested other motivations. Trill floated over to a central display, their antennae twitching with excitement. Observe. Human thought processes appear random, but contain complex emergent patterns. Similar to our collective metamorphic synchronization, but completely individualized. Dr. Patel pulled up a comparative analysis. The real discovery is how this interfaces with the sylphid's biological technology. Their systems naturally attempt to create order from chaos, while our technology introduces controlled chaos into ordered systems, Nirali finished. Together, they create something entirely new. A sudden surge of energy pulsed through the lab. The crystalline growths flashed with intense light, and every display screen flickered with rapidly shifting symbols. "That's not supposed to happen," Dr. Patel said, her fingers flying over multiple keyboards. "The integration protocols are accelerating exponentially." Warning alarms blared as the station's primary systems began to fluctuate. The artificial gravity wavered, causing everyone to float momentarily before crashing back to the deck. "Shut it down," Jace ordered, grabbing a handrail as the gravity shifted again. "We can't." Xena's wings had turned a pale, worried gray. "The systems are completely interlinked now. Our biological interfaces have merged with your quantum processors at a fundamental level." The station groaned as power surges raced through its structure. Emergency lights cast everything in a red glow, making the sylphid's wings appear to bleed color into the air. "Options?" Jace demanded, watching as more systems began to fail. Dr. Patel's eyes widened as she studied the readings. "Commander, I don't think this is a malfunction. The merged systems, they're trying to communicate." As if in response, every screen in the lab filled with swirling patterns that matched the sylphid's wing communications, while speaker systems emitted tones that resonated with human neural frequencies. "It's beautiful," Reese whispered, transfixed by the display. "And potentially lethal," Trill added. "This level of energy output could overload your station's containment systems." Jace turned to Nirali. "Your ship's biological systems evolved naturally. How do they prevent overload?" "Through synchronized metamorphosis," Nirali replied. "When energy builds too high, we enter a chrysalis state and—" They stopped, wings suddenly flaring with inspiration. "We need to let it transform," Dr. Patel said, reaching the same conclusion. "Not fight the integration, but guide it through a controlled metamorphosis. Using human chaos theory to direct sylphid biological evolution," Xena added excitedly. "Yes, yes. But we'll need a focal point, a seed crystal to initiate the process." Reese stepped forward, removing her neural interface headband, standard equipment for security personnel. "Will this work?" "It's already calibrated to human brainwaves." The sylphids huddled together, their antennae touching in rapid consultation. "Yes," Nirali decided. "But someone will need to maintain direct neural contact during the transformation. It's not without risk." "I'll do it," Reese volunteered before anyone could speak. "I've got the highest neural sync ratings on the station." Jay started to object, but the lieutenant's determined expression stopped him. They were out of time and options as the station's systems continued to deteriorate. What followed was a blur of activity. The sylphids prepared Reese's neural interface with their crystalline technology while Dr. Patel reconfigured the lab's equipment to channel the building energy. "Ready?" Nirali asked, their wings pulsing with concern. Reese managed a tight smile. "Just try not to let my brain turn into a chrysalis." She placed the modified interface on her head, and everything changed. The lab erupted with light and sound as human technology and sylphid biology fought to find harmony through their human conductor. Reese's back arched as patterns of light raced across her skin, matching the sylphid's wing communications. Her eyes glowed with the same crystalline iridescence as their compound eyes. "Neural patterns are stabilizing," Dr. Patel reported, her voice tense. "The station's systems are beginning to synchronize. Metamorphic resonance achieving harmony," Trill added. "It's working." The process lasted only minutes, but to those watching, it felt like hours. When it finally ended, Reese collapsed into Jace's arms as the station's systems returned to normal, though noticeably different. Holographic displays now incorporated biological elements, while the sylphid's crystalline technology pulsed in time with the station's power core. Everything had changed, yet somehow become more stable. "Lieutenant?" Jace asked anxiously as Reese's eyes fluttered open. "Present and accounted for, sir," she mumbled. "Though I think I finally understand their wing patterns. They're not just communication, they're poetry." The sylphid's wings all shifted to patterns of deep respect and admiration. "You've given us something unprecedented," Nirali said softly. "A true bridge between our species." As the others helped Reese to the medical bay for examination, Jace surveyed the transformed laboratory. They had come seeking understanding and found it in the most unexpected way possible. But as he watched Dr. Patel and the sylphids eagerly examining the new hybrid systems, he wondered what other transformations lay ahead. The bridge between their species had been built. Now they just had to learn how to cross it safely. Lieutenant Reese's recovery in the medical bay became an unexpected catalyst for further breakthroughs. Her neural patterns now resonated with both human and sylphid frequencies, creating what Dr. Patel called a living translation matrix. "Watch this," Reese demonstrated, her eyes taking on a subtle crystalline sheen. The nearby displays shifted, translating complex sylphid wing patterns into emotional landscapes humans could understand. "Remarkable," Dr. Patel murmured, studying the readings. "Your brain has created new neural pathways that process information like both species simultaneously." Xena hovered nearby, their wings shifting through patterns that Reese now recognized as scientific excitement mixed with concern. "But the physical toll." "I'm fine," Reese insisted, sitting up despite the medical monitor's protests. "Better than fine. I understand things now that I never could before." Jace watched from the doorway, concern etched on his features. "Understanding is one thing. Safety is another. We need to be sure there won't be any long-term effects." "Commander," Nirali approached, their wings displaying what Reese now translated as gentle reassurance. "Perhaps you should see what your lieutenant experiences. It might ease your concerns." Before Jace could respond, alarms blared through the station. Lieutenant Wong's voice crackled over the intercom, tinged with panic. "Commander. Multiple unidentified vessels just dropped out of FTL. Their weapons are hot." The medical bay's displays showed 6 predatory-looking ships surrounding the station. Their design was neither human nor sylphid. Harvester vessels, Trill's wings bleached to pale terror. They track emerging civilizations, waiting for technological breakthroughs worth stealing. "They must have detected our hybrid systems," Dr. Patel realized, her fingers flying over the controls. The energy signature would have been impossible to miss. The lead harvester ship transmitted a message, a series of harsh, guttural sounds that the station's traditional translators couldn't process. But Reese sat up straighter, her eyes glowing. "They're demanding we surrender all evolved technology or they'll reduce the station to atoms." "Not happening," Jace growled. "Options?" Dr. Patel glanced at the sylphids. "The hybrid systems, if we could expand them throughout the station." "Using my neural pattern as a template," Reese finished. "But it would need to be synchronized across all systems simultaneously." "Too dangerous," Nirali's wings flashed warning patterns. "The strain could kill you." Another message from the harvesters boomed through the station. "A countdown. 20 minutes to comply," Reese translated. Jace studied the tactical display. The Horizon's conventional weapons were useless against the advanced harvester ships. The sylphid vessel's biological weapons might damage 1 or 2, but not all 6. "What if we shared the load?" he suggested. "Multiple neural interfaces, linked through the hybrid system." "Yes." Dr. Patel's eyes lit up. "We could distribute the strain across several minds, using the sylphid's collective consciousness principles." "But modified through human individuality," Xena added excitedly. "Creating a temporary neural network. That could give us control of all station systems simultaneously," Trill finished. The next 15 minutes were a blur of activity. Dr. Patel and the sylphids modified neural interfaces while Jace selected volunteers, crew members with the highest neural plasticity ratings. "This is either brilliant or suicidal," Dr. Patel muttered, attaching the final connections. 5 humans and 3 sylphids sat in a circle in the medical bay, neural interfaces glowing with crystalline energy. Reese sat at the center, her enhanced patterns serving as the bridge between species. Remember, she instructed, don't fight the connection. Let the patterns flow naturally, like the sylphid's wing communications. They activated the interfaces. Consciousness expanded, human minds merging with sylphid awareness through the hybrid systems. The station itself seemed to come alive around them, every system responding to their unified will. The harvester ships opened fire as their countdown expired. Energy beams lanced toward the station, and froze in mid-space. Through their linked awareness, the humans and sylphids had transformed the station's shields into a crystalline lattice that absorbed and redirected energy. The harvesters' weapons fed back into their own ships, overloading their systems. But they weren't finished. Drawing on Reese's template, they extended their consciousness into the hybrid technology. The station's hull rippled like sylphid wings, while quantum processors merged with biological crystals to create impossible new configurations. The harvesters tried to retreat, but the unified consciousness reached out through space itself. Crystalline structures grew between the ships, trapping them in a lattice of quantum biological energy. Surrender, the unified voice of humans and sylphids resonated through space, or witness true evolution. The harvester ships powered down, their crews broadcasting panic and submission in equal measure. As the danger passed, the neural network began to dissolve. But something remained, a permanent bridge between human and sylphid consciousness, forged in crisis and tempered by shared purpose. The participants slowly regained their individual awareness, forever changed by the experience. Reese helped steady Jace as he removed his interface, his eyes still showing traces of crystalline light. Well, he managed, blinking away the last traces of shared consciousness. I think we can officially say human-sylphid relations have evolved beyond the mating season question. Nirali's wings flickered with amusement, a pattern everyone could now recognize without translation. Indeed. Though I must say, the way your species adapts to crisis is a rather attractive trait. Are you flirting with the commander? Reese asked, grinning. Perhaps, Nirali's wings shifted to a coy pattern. After all, we've just proven that our species can achieve remarkable things together. As the others laughed, Dr. Patel was already documenting the changes in their hybrid systems. The crisis had pushed their collaboration far beyond their initial goals, creating something entirely new. They had built more than a bridge between species. They had glimpsed the next step in both their civilization's evolution. The only question was, where would it lead them next? 3 months after the Harvester incident, the Horizon Station had become unrecognizable. Crystalline structures blended seamlessly with human technology, while holographic displays shimmered with sylphid wing patterns. But the most remarkable changes were in the crew themselves. Lieutenant Reese stood in the newly constructed integration chamber, teaching a group of human diplomats and sylphid envoys how to access the shared consciousness network. Her eyes shimmered with crystalline light as she guided them through the process. Remember, she instructed, it's not about losing your individuality. It's about expanding your understanding to encompass both perspectives simultaneously. Dr. Patel monitored the quantum biological readings from her lab, which now extended through multiple dimensions thanks to sylphid spatial manipulation. Neural patterns are stabilizing. The integration is getting smoother with each group. Outside the station's enhanced viewing windows, construction drones, both mechanical and biological, worked on the framework of what would become the first human-sylphid joint academy. The structure itself seemed to pulse with life, growing and adapting like a living organism while maintaining the precision of human engineering. Jace found Nirali in their favorite observation spot, their wings shifting through contemplative patterns as they watched the construction. Having second thoughts about all this? He asked, standing beside them. Not at all, Nirali's wings flickered with amusement. Though I must admit, when I first arrived seeking to understand human mating habits, I never imagined we'd end up literally merging our civilizations. Speaking of which, Jace cleared his throat, the Federation Council is still trying to process your collective's request for official human-sylphid pair bonding ceremonies. Are they still stuck on the chrysalis chamber requirement? Nirali's antennae twitched with mirth. I told them we could adapt the process for human comfort. Their conversation was interrupted by Xena and Trill bursting into the observation deck, their wings practically strobing with excitement. Commander. Envoy. You must come to the lab immediately. Xena's antennae were quivering. Dr. Patel has made another breakthrough. In the lab, they found Dr. Patel and Lieutenant Reese standing before a swirling vortex of crystalline energy. The display screens showed readings that made both human and sylphid scientists present flutter with excitement. We've done it, Dr. Patel announced, her usually composed demeanor cracking with enthusiasm. The hybrid systems don't just bridge our consciousness, they can bridge space itself. We're looking at an entirely new form of faster-than-light travel. By synchronizing human quantum engineering with sylphid biological manipulation, Reese explained, her enhanced perception allowing her to naturally translate complex scientific concepts between species, we can create stable wormholes that respond to conscious intent. Meaning? Jace prompted, though he was beginning to guess. Meaning, Nirali's wings shifted to their equivalent of a grin, that the galaxy just got a lot smaller. And our peoples can truly build a unified civilization among the stars. The implications were staggering. The combined knowledge and capabilities of both species, enhanced by their hybrid technology, would revolutionize space exploration. But more than that, they had created something unprecedented, a true synthesis of two entirely different approaches to understanding the universe. You know, Reese mused, watching the swirling vortex, all of this started because you thought humans had a mating season. In a way, we did, Nirali responded thoughtfully. Your species' constant drive to connect, to understand, to merge different perspectives, it's not so different from our metamorphic cycles. You just express it through innovation rather than biological transformation. Until now, Jace added, gesturing at their surroundings. Now we do both. The station hummed with the combined energy of human and sylphid technology, a physical manifestation of their successful integration. In the medical bay, new volunteers prepared to expand their consciousness. In the research labs, scientists of both species worked on innovations that would have been impossible alone. And in the newly constructed social areas, humans and sylphids shared stories, culture, and understanding. The harvesters were right about one thing, Dr. Patel said, studying her readings. We did create something worth pursuing. They just didn't understand that the real value wasn't in the technology itself, but in the cooperation that created it. As if to emphasize her point, a group of human and sylphid children, the first generation to grow up with the hybrid systems, flew past the lab, the humans using personal anti-gravity fields to match their sylphid friends' natural flight. Their laughter needed no translation. So, Nirali turned to Jace, their wings shifting to a more personal pattern that he had come to know well, about those pair bonding ceremonies. Jace felt his face flush, still not entirely used to how direct sylphids could be about relationships. Maybe we should start with dinner. I hear the new hybrid cuisine chef has created something interesting with crystallized protein structures. Always so cautious, Nirali teased, their wings flickering with affection. But that's why we work well together. You bring order to our chaos, we bring chaos to your order, and somehow it creates something beautiful. As they left the lab together, the swirling vortex of possibility still spinning behind them, Jace reflected on how far they'd come. What had started as a simple misunderstanding about human biology had led to the next great leap in both their species' evolution. And perhaps that was the greatest lesson of all, that true progress comes not from maintaining separation or erasing differences, but from finding ways to combine seemingly incompatible perspectives into something greater than either could achieve alone. The stars beckoned, and for the first time in history, two species would answer their call as one, while remaining uniquely themselves. It wasn't just a new chapter in their story, it was the beginning of an entirely new book, written in a language that combined the best of both their worlds. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of humor after all.